Well, I hope you like Slam, because today we're ranking the albums of Ingested.
Come on and slam!
Alright, let's get right into it with Surpassing the Boundaries of Human Suffering in 2009, kicking things off pretty filthy with this brutal bit of slam. Honestly, I probably would have eaten this up back in high school, but as someone who prefers a little bit more variety in my death metal, I find slam overall to be kind of dull when it's not rolled into other styles.
Right to jail.
Like, it can serve as a great punctuation point, which is why I like bands like Within Destruction, but on its own it gets a little old for me, both in terms of the guitars and gurgly vocals. That said, there are some banger riffs on here like Contorted Perception and Stillborn, which also has some solid atmosphere. I also appreciate that it very much knows what it is at just 33 minutes. Get in, get skinned, get fucked, get out.
Acceptable.
If you're a slam junkie, you'll probably rank this one much higher, but for me, it's kind of a C. And also, you'll notice I have augmented the tier list because there's a lot of kind of B material, I'd say, with this band, and I wanted to split it up a little bit. Next, we have the Surreption in 2011. So hearing some changes going into this one with raspier screams mixed in with the deeper ones for a bit more of that range I was looking for. Just a year before, they played with the Black Dahlia Murder, Carnifex, The Faceless, and 3 Inches of Blood, and I feel like I can hear elements of those things seeping in. The guitar work is a bit more technical in places amidst the head-bobbing sections as with Decline. The Consequence also throws in some straight-up hardcore elements, including gang vocals. Castigation and Reborn has some really sick blasts and start-stop riffs. Lots of solid grooves, but also broken up by the faster sections. Nice atmosphere on the closer with the strings. Reminds me a little bit of the Aborted Trajectory, which is going to come up a few times here, so get used to that. There is a re-recorded version from 2021 called the Surreption 2. Both versions I'd say are about equal in my book, though I generally prefer the charm of originals, and this one's going to B tier. Next up is the Architect of Extinction in 2015. This one feels like a mix of the debut's brutality with the increased musicianship of the second album. The production continues to improve, as does some of the songwriting, continuing to step up dynamics, even including an acoustic guitar and a moodier aesthetic for Penance, an appropriately grand and malevolent atmosphere for Extinction Event, and a kind of Lamb of God reminiscent intro on Rotted Eden. And all of this still amidst the more punishing stuff that they're known for. Good example of evolving without losing your roots. I do feel like they lost some of the vocal variety though, sticking to mostly the deeper gurgles and growls, even despite guest appearances from Julian of Wormhole and Alex Terrible, as well as others. Overall though, pretty solid. I was having a good time bopping this one. I'll put it in B+. By the way, thank you to the Patreons for making this happen. The poll was kind of split, not overly enthusiastic, but I let them have kind of a final say on whether or not we should do this list, and they voted in favor. If you'd like to be able to vote on that stuff and also get early access to material and maybe some exclusive videos, then feel free to join at the Metal Trenches Patreon. That said, let's move on to the Level Above Human in 2018. So I'd say we flip back again to more diverse vocals and riffing on this one, also continuing to expand on their groovy melodic elements and even some kind of exotic sounds with Purveyors of Truth, Misery Leech, Transcendence Gods, Better Off Dead, and especially Last Rites. And then Obsolescent goes big and profound again for the closer, this time fully instrumental, like they don't even need vocals on that track. It says volumes without them. These continue to be the more interesting and memorable tracks for me, because like I said, the more paint by numbers, brutal stuff ends up feeling a bit more bland by comparison.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Quite a guest list of appearances here, including members of Suffocation, Origin, Ozaya, Cryptopsy, and Veil of Nath. Once more, I'd compare this one to the more recent Aborted albums, which personally is my go-to pick in this style. I'm curious to hear the Slam purist thoughts in the comments on my overall ranking, and especially this one, but I really dig this direction. This one is also going at B+ and a little bit higher at that. That brings us to Where Only Gods May Tread in 2020. I actually reviewed this one when it came out, and it continues on a pretty similar trajectory as the last one, further weaving together the melodic elements with the harsh ones. The variance in speed from mosh pit frenzies to more atmospheric trudges through the unknown keeps things very interesting. No half measures is a banger, so are impending dominance and the list before they open up into further displays of dark atmosphere. Dead Seraphic Forms has some really great hooks. Black Pill brings more of that kind of metallic hardcore energy with a guest spot from Kubla Khan's Matt Honeycutt. But the track that really turned my head here, and I think a lot of people's heads, was Another Breath. I honestly wish they had leaned into these ideas more because it's easily the best thing they've ever done, if you ask me. Those tortured, sludgy howls from Crowbar's Kirk Winstein is an addition that seems odd on paper but works just so well. Vincent Bennett of the Acacia Strain also makes an appearance. Still far from perfect, and I wouldn't say it really did enough to end up anywhere close to the top death metal albums of that year, but within their own discography, which these tier lists always are, I'd say it's an easy A for them. And then we have Ashes Lie Still in 2022. The title track got me really excited for this one, as it seems to lean into what worked on Another Breath with more stellar atmosphere and haunting guest vocals, this time from Julia Frau. This then offset by the delicious slammy violence of Shadows in Time and Chuggy You'll Never Learn, sandwiched in by another impressive feat of malevolent atmosphere in Tides of Glass, which also isn't without its own explosive distortion and some of my favorite riffs on the album. And then finally, after all this talk of parallels with Aborted, Sven de Kaluuya actually makes an appearance on From Hollow Words, which is about as perfect of a collab as one might expect at this point. So great start here, one that made me wonder if this would be my new favorite from them, but I will say that I don't find the second half to be as good as the first. It feels as if they lose some of the balance I've been praising them for, this time leaning much more into slower, at times even borderline death doomy compositions. It's not at all that these tracks are bad, they just don't grip me in the same way and could use a few more aggressive moments in between. Maybe even just shuffling up the track listing or just like cutting down the number of these types of tracks would work better, at least in my opinion. And as regular viewers should be very clear on by now, the harsh vocals of Trivium's Matt Heafy are like nails on a chalkboard to me, so despite the cool synths, he kind of ruins all I've lost for me. As always, your mileage may vary depending on your own personal taste, but I find myself on each re-listen kind of zoning out and struggling to finish it once I get past that halfway point. I deeply respect that they continue to shake things up, and I think there's a lot here that they can build off of moving forwards. It's just not the slam dunk I was hoping for.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So yeah, if the whole thing was like the first half, this could be A and S tier, but ultimately I think it drags it down to kind of a higher up on B tier. Y'all check out this playlist for plenty more death metal related tier lists and videos, and let me know down in the comments what your rankings are, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.